Chapter 10 is very closely tied to Chapter 9 of Ethics, and it's called Social Responsibility. Social responsibility is a duty to operate in an honorable manner, provide good working conditions for employees, be a good steward of the environment, and actively work to better the quality of life in your local community where you operate and society at large. Social responsibility is a lot more than just environmental, although that's the way most people think of it. It's also known as corporate responsibility, corporate citizenship, corporate social performance, and responsible business. Eh, we haven't settled on a name yet. There are three different perspectives of social responsibility. The first is called shareholder, and this is what is best for the shareholders of the company. When gas prices got so very, very high, the CEO of Exxon was on one of the talk shows and they asked him, why don't you hold down the prices? Why do you have to be the biggest company in the world? Why do you have to make so much profit? And his answer was, that's what's best for the shareholders. They don't care about anybody else, just the shareholders. This used to be the standard management practice. It's the economic view. The second one is stakeholders, where there's a balance among the stakeholders. This is a little harder because sometimes things that make one stakeholder happy don't make the rest of the stakeholders happy. And the stakeholders here are our communities, our suppliers, our customers, our employees, our shareholders. This is the perspective that we have been teaching since I was in business school, and now our CEOs are getting to this point. And the whole world, and this is balance among everyone, and this is kind of a utopian thought, that we'd like everybody, to benefit from what we're doing, but it's nearly impossible. So why should you be socially responsible? Basically, for the same reasons you should be ethical. There are some internal benefits. You can do money saving, you can have better employee morale, better employee recruitment. There can be cost savings depending on how you go about doing it. It also lowers the risk of any kind of reputation damaging incidents. You hear about BP, you hear about Exxon, and so on. But the most socially responsible oil and gas company is, in fact, Phillips 66. People like to deal with companies that are socially responsible and will go out of their way to do that if they know about it. So you might have increased number of buyers or people who shop with you more often. But ultimately it comes down to it's the right thing to do. The tragedy of the commons. Let's talk about that. A common is a resource that's held by multiple users, and it gives them some kind of tangible benefits. And think about a field or a river or a lake or something like that. And a common that is not owned by anyone specifically, or it's owned by the government, is generally called an open access resource. The tragedy is that people who have self-interest will use the resources in the short term as opposed to maintaining it for the long term, which ultimately damages everybody. Okay? So an example is there's a lake and there's 5 factories on the lake. And if one factory pollutes the lake, eventually the lake will degrade to the point where nobody can use the lake. The more people who say, well, they're doing it, what good does it do not to, and it costs us more, ultimately will cause the degradation of the lake, and that's the tragedy of the common. So how do you measure success? Well, in the first place, let's talk about something else. There is an investment firm, and I can't remember who it is off the top of my head, that deals with a group of companies. They have a portfolio only of companies that they consider to be socially responsible. And during the economic downturn, at the worst of it, these companies that were in this portfolio we're still making money. The portfolio itself outperformed every other portfolio. And companies are actually working with these investment people to try to get on and to be known to get on this list. And one of those big companies, one of the companies is Target. I think Old Navy is on that list as well. So how do you measure your successes in social responsibility? It's very difficult. First, you need to know who benefits and how much they matter. Obviously, employees matter, buyers matter, but just society in a whole matter as much as Spartan. Try to predict cost and the benefits. Estimate the measures for all the stakeholders, in other words, how will it work, and monetize them. And then calculate the net present values and total it up. So, for example, we're going back to our pet store and we're going to offer prescription pet medicines. So the first thing we have to do is determine who our stakeholders are, who's going to be benefited or who is going to be affected by this. So we've determined that it'll be the owners, the employees, the customers, and the community at large. What is the impact? Well, to the owners, they'll get increased traffic to the location at very little extra cost. To the employees, there will be lowered prices for their pets, but there will cost the cost of a pharmacist. To the customers, lower drug prices. And to the community, less expensive options than the vets can offer. So now we look at the benefit and the costs, the measurables. So we've estimated that there'll be a 2% increase in traffic, but a 5% increase in sales because people will come in to buy their prescriptions and they'll increase the sales. So how do we know? Well, we've done some surveys, we've done some assumptions, and we've estimated our current sales at about $385,000. The employees will get a 3% discount over the regular vet. The average cost per employee, and there's 97 employees, $138. How did we do this? From estimated budget worksheets. Now, how much will it cost us to do this as far as employees? Well, there'll be an average hourly local is $53 a week plus 40 hours a week plus 25 per benefits. And where did we get that? From the pharmacy website for average salaries in our location. Again, we'll see for the customers a 3% discount over the vets, which is $12,000 in total sales per customer equals $135 per customer. And how do we get this? Again, through surveys. Okay, so you can kind of see how this works. Community at large, well, 36% of households have pet, and each household has an average of 1.6 pets. Average household, 44,000 and 40% of the pet market. Okay, so we're doing some conservative stuff. We went to the Census Bureau from the state in the U.S., and we looked at some business documents that we have. So now the next thing we do is we calculate the costs and benefits. So the 2% increase in traffic and the 5% sales, we make those calculations. All right, then we calculate over 3 years whether it's worth it or not. We do the net present value and total up to $951,189. So over 3 years, we can make almost $1 million by doing this. And there are benefits and impacts to people for us to do this. We'll be socially responsible by offering veterinarian medicines for the pets.